Alright, here's another basic knife review. Not going to be one of those in-depth reviews where we tear it apart and try to baton a 2x4 and stuff like that. There's other websites that do that. Gideon's Tactical, Slicey Dicey, Nut and Fancy. Lots of amazing review sites where those guys really know their shit and kind of tear through the knife and stuff. This isn't going to be like that. This is going to be more of the layperson who's not a knife expert, a mild enthusiast, someone who appreciates knives, uses them, and has a few of them, but that's going to be the level of depth we're going to go into here. So this is one I've been wanting to try for a while. I've seen some reviews on some of these knives coming out of China, and there are good knives coming out of China. Steel Will, Civivi, We Knife Company. There's several of them out there that are making top-notch stuff, and I know the thought has always been like, it's coming out of China, it's crap. Well, not always the case. Certainly there are things that are done cheaply in China, knockoffs and things, and they don't put a lot of thought or workmanship into it. But your iPad, most of your Apple products, they're made out of China. Those are certainly, whether you're an Android fanboy or an Apple fanboy, you can't deny that the quality's there, at least from a hardware perspective. Apple makes great stuff. So as we're looking at this, there's some things there's some very good compelling reasons to consider this knife. So it's made by a company called VESPA. I got it from DHgate, which is kind of like an alternative to what is it, AliExpress, and we'll put links up and stuff in there if you want to check this out. But ordered this one was $150. They'd range in price from down $80 if you want a D2 steel blade. This is the S35VN Vespa. There's some other styles, whether you want a Tonto blade or you want different colors and things like that. We'll get into some of those details. But the price ranges anywhere from $80 up to about $170. So this is one of the more expensive ones, but not the most expensive one. Comes in a nice case. Took about 2 weeks to get here from China to go through customs and things. But the first thing I noticed is, hey, nice little custom case. It's nylon and actually pretty sturdy. Feels pretty strong. Got a little pouch in here. It's all kind of fleece lined. Comes with a very nice machined tool that has the little thing on the end there to go in and be able to remove the screws if you need to clean it. You'd say, well, why else would you want to open it up? Well, eventually the springs will probably get fatigued and wear out, although these certainly seem to be good quality. They actually sent some extra springs. They got extra screws. So nice touch. Normally you'd think to spend $25 or $30 for the Microtech tool, and if you want extra springs, maybe they'll give them to you, but if not, you'd have to buy them. But it's just nice that they've included all that, and a microfiber for cleaning the blade and stuff. So all that comes with it. Now what you're going to notice here is, wow, that looks a lot like a Microtech a Troodon or a Combat Troodon. And that's because they copied it. They're not licensing it. It's not a rip-off. It's not a knockoff in that they're saying, hey, this is a Microtech when it's not. But clearly somebody took this design, scanned it into a CAD program, and loaded it into a CNC machinery and started cranking these out. So if you're a big Microtech fanboy and you're all about the brand and stuff, this might anger you, and that's fine. It's clearly a clone. I'm okay with it personally. I don't want to spend $500 on a Microtech. And not because I don't like Microtech. I don't have one currently. I do plan on picking up one of their UTX 85s for an EDC. I think that's a phenomenal knife. But for something like this, I'm not going to spend $500 on a knife. It's not like I went to these guys and took away business from Microtech. I was never going to spend $500 on a freaking pocket knife, That's just not what I would choose to spend my money on. I spend it on guns or motorcycles and other stuff. But for $150 to get that kind of design and from everything I'm seeing here and seen elsewhere, the quality, yeah, I'll spend that. It's less than I've spent on some knives. So anyway, this is S35VN. It's got a carbon inlay on the blade, stone-washed finish, carbon inlay on the handle itself, which is made out of really nicely machined 6061 T6 aircraft aluminum. We've got carbon inlay on here. Now I went with the black because that's what they had in stock, and this one was actually just a little cheaper at $150 instead of being closer to $170. But I didn't feel like waiting for the other colors to come in stock. I will say they have a yellow, like a goldish yellow and blue and red, and it really makes that carbon fiber pop. But what I noticed first right away is this thing is expertly machined. There are no rough edges. In fact, the seam that you see here, you don't even feel it. I mean, if you get your thumbnail down, you know what, even with my thumbnail, Granted, I chewed down my thumbnail, so there's not much there. You almost can't feel it. If I take like the corner of my nail where it's a little sharper, I can just start to feel it. But running my hands over it this way, I can't feel that seam. That is how nicely machined that is. This is titanium, by the way, so that should hold up nice. The screws, I mean, this, if you didn't have the name Vespa here, and you had this with the Microtech, which I have handled before at shows and in knife stores, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them. You know, maybe a true expert could, but I don't think the average person could. I mean, the materials, the fit and finish, the way this is anodized, it's smooth, it's even, there's no rough edges on here. The way the pieces mate together, this is phenomenal. Same thing here. I can't feel the difference. Now I can feel that it's a little more smooth because it's polished there, but I don't feel any edge whatsoever. That is just amazing to me. Action is smooth. Brand new knife, not even broken in. That is a great firing knife. You look at the edges, they're straight. A lot of times this line here is slightly off-centered. It's not. When you look at the inlay there, you know, a lot of times it's not equidistant on both sides. It's not perfectly centered. This is. I mean, this thing is really well made. A little bit of blade play, has to. You know, can't have the blade scraping along the chassis every time it comes in and out, unless you've got the Hawk Lock, which I'm not spending $2,500 on a custom knife. You know, they all have that. The Microtech has it, and I felt them, and it's not any more than that. A really nice firing. This is a big knife. I'm 6'4", 235 pounds. I have, you know, fairly big hands. That fits my hand really, really well. I'm not falling off of it like I am on some of the other ones. Nice strong pocket clip. Carbide glass breaker, so if you had to pop a window, get out of a vehicle, if there was a crash or, you know, whatever. It's a hell of a knife, man. I'm not gonna lie. This thing is I'm very pleased with for what you paid, what I paid in this case, and what you get to get a premium steel like that, to get that fit and finish. Amazing. So there's some other things in here, so let me show you just a size comparison. So here's my Brian tie. That's the most expensive one. Again, I know there's probably people laughing at me like, oh, you only spent $350 on a knife, you know. All right, well, I spend money on guns and motorcycles and Italian, you know, race bikes and other stuff. So I have other vices. With knives, I'm only willing to go so far. So that was the most expensive one at $350. Brian Tye's a custom knife maker. I wouldn't say this is a true custom. These are a production run, but they're very limited. I think this was like number 42 or 46 in a limited run. But it's $350. You know, that's pretty decent for a pocket knife. Really nice action. Again, beautifully machined. But what I say, from what I can see here, you're paying for the name, but they're both S35 VN steel. I mean, you're getting the same materials, the fit and finish. Again, you can't feel the seam on that one. Actually, I can almost feel the seam on that one. Not here, but here. I mean, the fit and finish is comparable. I've got a Hogue OTF. That's 154 cm steel. Still good steel. Not quite as good as S35 VN. I'm not a blade snob. I don't care if it's got, you know, the latest super steel. All that means is, yeah, it'll hold an edge longer, but when you do have to sharpen it, it's going to be a pain in the ass. I'd rather have a mid-grade steel that holds it well, good corrosion resistance if I get it wet, and don't wipe it down properly every time. But if I got to run it through a ceramic rod real quick and bring the edge up, you know, I don't want to sit there and have to pull out diamond stones and spend half an hour putting the edge back on it. Got better things to do at my time. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Very nice contour. This is definitely one of my favorites. Probably the one I carry most often. Got another one here. Hogue Hadron. It's got HK branding. Hogue makes it for HK. A little smaller blade, a little more svelte, but certainly very thin. Good for pocket carry. I've got my Cobra Tech from their more premium line. Now this is very well machined as well. I will say the machining, but they didn't spend the extra attention to detail. These edges right here are sharp. Obviously you can't see that. You have to take my word for it, but those are sharp. It's good for getting grip on your hand, but I don't know. It's a little rough. The machining's very precise. It's put together well. It fires great. It's D2 blade steel. The grinds are nice. It's centered properly. Not a lot of blade play. Nothing more than any of these other ones. It's a good knife for $140. It's a good knife. But on here, this was a cheese grater. And so you'll notice a little bit of visual blemishing there, and that's because I had to take a little wire wheel on a Dremel, and I just kind of hit it a little bit, which unfortunately didn't think it was going to make that visual issue there. But mechanically, oh, that's the first, well, there you go. That's the first misfire I've had on any of these. Huh? Sometimes you do get what you pay for. So Cobra Tech, you know, that was the one I bought more as a novelty. We'll see if that holds up over time or if that misfiring becomes an issue. Now, the good thing with these guys is while I think these blades are made in China or some of the pieces are made there and assembled here, they do have a lifetime warranty, and I did actually remember to register it. So if I have a problem, they're right over in Texas. I can have this to them in a day or two, and they've got an unlimited lifetime warranty. So if there's a problem with it, they'll fix that. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. That's, yeah, I hadn't had it misfire before. Now to reset it, I mean literally, if it was to let me induce a misfire here, just to show you what happens, and it happens the same at all of these. So let's say it encounters an object. Okay, piece of paper was all it took. Actually, the receipt from them was enough. So that blade is now freewheeling in there. So if you want to reset it, you can push the button up all in one direction, and kind of get it to reset just by pushing it. I thought I could do it just by flicking it. So it's not that easy, so I guess I'll have to actually pull on it. But now it's reset. So very simple. They all do that. It's actually a safety thing, where when you hit something, it knocks off track. But in any case, I guess that's why we do some of these videos. I would not have encountered that elsewise. We'll keep an eye on that. So Hogue Hadron, very nice little knife. But I'll tell you what's nice about these bigger ones is these ramped buttons. So that's just a nubbin. The spring's fairly strong, so if you don't, you put the tip of your thumb here. It's not so bad, and then you kind of move your thumb over like that. But it takes that same, it doesn't sound like a lot, but you're putting like 8, 10, 12 pounds of pressure or whatever it is. It's concentrated all on that nubbin, so it kind of makes your thumb a little sore. So if you got it in the middle of your thumb, so your thumb doesn't slide, there's nothing to really catch it on. You kind of have to push really hard against it. And when you do that, and you do this more than like 3 or 4 times, it's already starting to dig into my thumb. You kind of have to use the tip of your thumb, which unfortunately requires you to change your grip on the knife. So if you want to grab it real quick, your thumb here, it's kind of hard. You got to kind of change your grip, deploy it, and then kind of choke back up on it. So while I like the knife overall, I don't like that thumb button. It's not as good as it could be. On the bigger one, because it's a bigger handle, your hand's not sliding off. I don't have to change my grip as much. I can do it quicker, and it's a little less painful over time, but it kind of puts all that pressure focused on a smaller area. These guys and the Cobra Tech that have that ramped, much easier. Really smooth action on that. In any case, let's put these other guys away. This one is definitely the heaviest. I've got another video that's got all the different weights. This one's 5 3/8 ounces. So it is the heaviest of them, but it's also the beefiest. I mean, and being that it's got a double blade here, a dagger style blade, this is really a defensive knife. It's not a practical knife for just opening boxes. I mean, it's nice. You could certainly obviously use it to open up whatever the hell you want, but I would say it's not it's not your little EDC knife. Now, I carry a gun on my hip all the time, and so I'm a big guy. I've got usually wearing cargo shorts or something in the summertime. I can carry a larger blade like this, and I might just for the novelty of it. It is a cool knife, but it's probably overkill when something like this is probably really what would be more applicable to an EDC. But for the money, man, I think having a U.S.-based company with customer service like Microtech, they're a great company. They have great knives, and I do plan to actually buy one soon. I'm going to get the UTX 85. But is this, when you look at their version of this, and it's $500 versus $150, is the $350 worth better? Mechanically, materials-wise, I just don't see it. Now, if I have a problem with it, and I can deal with an American company that arguably has excellent customer service, well, that's got to count for something, right? And so, maybe it makes sense to do that. But not everyone's going to want to spend $500 on a freaking pocket knife. Some people will. I would say most won't. That's going to be out of most people's budgets. That's a car payment for a lot of people. So telling the wife, yeah, I'm going to spend that on a freaking another pocket knife. A lot of guys aren't going to do that. Luckily, my wife is cool about this kind of stuff, so I don't take any flack. We enjoy our hobbies, and she actually likes knives and carries a knife and carries a gun herself. So, but yeah, I'm just looking at the lines. I'm looking at how this is put together. I've seen videos. I'm not going to take mine apart, but I've seen people who have taken these apart and taken apart a Microtech. So they have them side by side, and they're looking at the machining. It's one thing to have them outside machine because that's what you see, that's what you touch every day, and you want to make it look nice and look quality. But then when you open it up, you see it looks like, you know, someone hollowed out the area, you know, with a hammer. It looks like shit. These are actually nicely polished inside. The edges are, I mean, they're every bit as good, if not a little bit nicer than some of the Microtechs. I've seen the videos of them where they crack them open and they're like, this is really well machined. It wasn't just machined on CNC. Someone took the time afterwards to polish it. The springs, the clips, the actual locking mechanism, someone took those stainless steel parts and polished them so the edges are smooth. They're all deburred. In some cases, better than the higher end knives that cost 2, 3, 4 times as much. So I'll give you a link to these guys. They're phenomenal. This is a great, great knife. We'll see how it holds up over time, see if it holds up as well as the hose. I'm not going to be batoning these things and beating the shit out of them like Gideon and some of those other guys do. That's great that they do that. You want to know that if you had to, although you really wouldn't be batoning a double-edged knife. But you want to know if it's a hard-use knife, you know, if it's going to hold up. I don't know how hard I'll ever use these, but, you know, for a pocket knife when you just need to open stuff up, or if you're in a state that doesn't allow concealed carry of a handgun and you said, well, I want something, you know. Granted, you know, most people aren't trained to use a knife, and you got to get real up close, and it is not ideal defending yourself with a knife. But, you know, if it's that or nothing, give me the damn knife. I mean, I would prefer to have that than be sitting there like a goon with my hands empty if I ever was unlucky enough to be in that situation. So, very cool knife. We'll put up the links and check them out. There's other reviews that'll give you a little bit more detail, but from what I'm seeing right now, this is worth every penny and then some. This is a great knife. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks.